So I'm pleased now to introduce our keynote speaker for the event. The event planning committee thought a lot. It's really amazing how much we thought about who should be our keynote speaker for this event. We looked at different consulting firms and different tour operators, and we just weren't getting it. We weren't figuring out who we felt like was the right person or the right outfit to come here. Then we had a bit of an epiphany, and we realized that in December, Lonely Planet named Northern Maine as one of its top 10 travel destinations in the United States for 2013. So we suddenly thought, well, maybe someone from Lonely Planet can come and talk about why they picked Northern Maine, what they look for in a destination. So we made a couple of phone calls. The Office of Tourism helped make a couple of connections, and we were able to connect with Robert Reed, who was the author of the article that selected Maine as Northern Maine was one of the top travel destinations in the U.S. for 2013. He's the U.S. travel editor for Lonely Planet. He's written, I believe, from my conversations with him over the last few days, 24 guidebooks. He appears regularly on national television and radio programs, including Today Show, 2020, Fox and Friends, CNN Headline News. He keeps his own website at readontravel.com. And he's had the opportunity, he arrived in Maine on Tuesday. He came to Portland, and he headed right out of Portland and went up to Aroostook County and started working his way down through the Maine woods. So we're going to have an opportunity to hear a little bit about Robert's trip through the Maine woods, his impressions and his thoughts about the Maine woods as a travel destination in the United States. So please, let's all welcome Robert Reed from Lonely Planet.
Mike didn't tell you that I headed out from Portland in Mike's car because I never trust a travel expert. My driver's license expired and they wouldn't rent me a car. I almost had a really big presentation on the Portland airport. Really nice car. The CD collection is very curious. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. PowerPoint. I do PowerPoint presentations my own way. We'll see. So, travel writers, a lot of people think of travel writers as like a dream job. I hear this a lot. They go, oh, I'd love to do what you do and things like that. And I always say, it's really actually a lot of work. It's really hard. I've covered the Yucatan for a Central America book, and I spent on 2 trips about 15 minutes in the beach. You're going around to hotels, and you're going and getting information about tours and bus times and all kinds of dreadful things, and doing everything but it. But there are times that it's fun. And this trip, I just kind of look at myself and go, what did I do to scan this? It's just like, this was just an absolute joy the whole time. I'm having a problem finding this. Where is the little button to start this guy? Just a second. Here it is. I got it. Thank you. Mike is used to saving me. So. And so, I will come. I will try to give everything I can to help. I really believe in the North Woods. I really like it a lot, and I will try to help you from a travel point of view, from the writers that pick stories and how they make decisions for top 10 lists or articles they do. And then my impressions. I cover a lot of places around the world and what my impressions are for Maine. I realize, and as you do, I'm not a Maine expert. You all know much more about Maine, but perhaps the outside perspective will help understand how to bring this whole thing together of what is the Maine woods. So I thought I'd start with, how do you do this? The top 20 things I learned about Maine in 4 crazy days on the road. Everyone likes top 10 lists, right? So why not top 20? So the first thing is that for some reason no clocks in Maine go to 4:30. It goes from 4:29 to 4:31. And 4:30, as I knew it, is Moose 30. Everyone was talking to me about Moose 30. I never heard that time before. And went out and I was able to see some moose. So Moose 30 is something I'll use. So I'll take that back to Oregon so they won't have any there. I learned that a camp is not a tent. I was going, I'm not going to stay in any camp. No way. But, it's like, when we call it a cabin, most people outside the region, I think, would see that as a cabin. And this is Chuck Harris at the Ambigigis Boom House. I never know how to pronounce that very well. A lot of the pronunciation stuff. And this is his camp at the boom house, the museum that he made there near the Millinocket area. I don't know if you've been, it's absolutely fantastic. But that camp is, I mean, it's got the outside refrigerator, outside sink. You go in, it's one room, there's a little gaslit stove, and it's just like the coziest thing in the world. And there's so many people who have never seen anything like that. Look at these antlers. Look at that guy. It's just like, people want that stuff, you know. It's like, wow, I want to camp. I want to stay there for like 5 days with a canoe or something. So, but it's not a tent. That's an important distinction. We don't know that. A boom is not a noise. I didn't want to confess to him that I had no idea what a boom was. I thought it was a funny word for these kind of places that you bachelor parties end up going to or something. But you know the boom, it's, you know, all the river run and all the logs and the bottomless little net made of logs chained together going down on a lake and connecting to the rivers. Boom. It's a better boom, I think. Ploys are not a strategy to lure more visitors to the Maine woods. Not yet. They're little one-sided thin buckwheat pancakes, French Acadian tradition that you get up there. This was in Madawaska with a fantastic bowl of chicken dumpling soup. Acadia restaurant in Madawaska, I really recommend. That was great. People like local delicacies, things they can't get from home. Ploys. Look at that. You just want to kind of grab it. And there's, you know, and ploys. So it could be a ploy, depending on how you go. Number 5, the dead river can make cops puke. I was at the Forks a couple days ago staying at Northern Outdoors and went on the first tour down the Dead River. I'd never been in a raft before. I was kind of nervous. I was really kind of hoping it would get canceled. I didn't want to go in that. I don't like being wet or cold. So it seemed like I was in the wrong place. But I'm actually in this picture. I'm hiding behind a Rhode Island policeman as much as I can, just like I was this complete sheep. Just tell me what to do. All in, back. Just don't keep us in the boat. And it was great fun. I really, really enjoyed it. We didn't fall in. But the guy next to me, who was the only one that had been before, right here, we get through all the rapids and we're just kind of floating down like the last 5 minutes, and we're sitting there and talking about how much water we kind of swallowed by accident and how it tasted, mixed with M&Ms that we were eating and things like that. And that, you know, we're asking, do people ever get seasick on this and all this stuff? And all of a sudden that guy turns, boom. Boom is also an wow. And by the way, don't throw up in front of cops. They have no empathy at all. They were dying laughing before it hit the water. Fiddlehead isn't an idiot, but a fern. I've never heard of these things. I got some fiddleheads if you want some later. I didn't know. I thought, I thought, is this a tourist thing? You're joking. There's no such thing as fiddlehead. It's also a newspaper in Fort Kent, Fiddlehead Focus. Greatest name for a newspaper of all time. But I found some fiddleheads on the way back yesterday morning. This guy, with far more fiddleheads than teeth, sold me $3.50 a pound. I don't know what to do with them. Did you know that you could eat turkey eggs? I had no idea. I never thought about it before. Mr. Matt here from New England Outdoor Center is holding these eggs. It was his turkey who he called Thomas until the eggs came. So the name was changed. They have bigger yolks, a little bit richer taste. I never really thought about it before. Why aren't there turkey eggs? Well, Thanksgiving is the reason, I guess. Number 8, I learned that in Maine there might be old shoes in your wall. Up in Aroostook County, there's an Acadian tradition. A lot of older houses, they have these concealment shoes that have been put in the wall to keep evil spirits away, which is always a good idea. And one of the guys that I met up there, Don Sear, hilarious guy, has a house from 1896, and he was putting insulation, and he found the shoe in there, and he left it. That's not that shoe, because he wants to keep the evil spirits away. Along with late travel writers, I was late for my appointment. Number 9, crimes are rare unless you live near the North Pond Hermit. That is not the North Pond Hermit. So apologize to this little guy. 10, Maine really isn't that far away. People think of it as remote, but it is home to other planets. On Route 1 in Aroostook, there is the hilarious solar system. I don't know if you've seen this. It's based on 40 miles along Route 1. It's really interesting because they make it very mathematical, the distance between the planets and the size they are in relation to each other. So you see Pluto this big, easy to miss, and then you notice Saturn and Jupiter and things like that. But you see how far the planets are when you go further out and how much closer they are. So it's actually kind of interesting. I kind of have a different appreciation for it, plus I got to take photos. So that's neat. I like that they did that on the highway up there. Kevin McCartney did that. I think it turns 10 this year. See, anniversary is always good, always good. I think it's 10 if I remember correctly. Maine isn't just about Poland Spring or the ocean. All those lakes and ponds. There's like 3,300. Oh no, that's the wrong statistic. Forget that. But what's that?
5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
5,000 like bodies of water and stuff like that. But I just see these kind of ponds and lakes, and I just kind of, it looks like crystal gelatin. I just want to grab a handful and just eat it. It just looks so soft. There's something about it that's really, really nice. And so the water experiences are in North Woods, or the Maine Woods, more than maybe I expected before I came. Mud doesn't cake boots only, but closes businesses. I didn't know there was a thing called mud season before I came. I'm glad I missed bug season, though. Everyone can have their own island. This is the stat I have. At least for a little while. You know, a lot of people, it's like a dream to have your own island for a little bit. You know, just go out and have an island. And there's like 3,000 sea islands in Maine. That's great. But there's probably 6,000 to 12,000 islands if you could ever count how many there are in the Maine woods. And I found one of my favorite experiences was from the Appalachian Mountain Club. I went just canoeing out in Long Pond and went to a couple islands. And you can imagine a blueberry season, you just sit out there and have a picnic and eat blueberries. And it just really feels like, wow, I'm out here. I feel like Donald Trump or something in a penthouse, but it's a Maine island. And I think that, you know, just the idea that everyone should have their own island, it should be a human right. And they're up there. I mean, you know this, that 14 people really do speak French here. No one knows, I mean, outside this region, it's just a real surprise. It's fascinating. That's in Madawaska. It's one of the four corners of the U.S. They have a Harley event there for the four corners. It's the northeastmost point in the United States, and see signs like "On parle français ici." That's great. That's fascinating. It's a really cultural, interesting thing that a lot of people don't know. I think they have a lot of potential with this. And 5, similarly, a star isn't just for decoration. You see the stars as a kind of a tribute to the Acadian flag on all over houses. I saw it on self-serve potato shack stands and hats, and that's really interesting. I think it's a real cultural advantage that other places in the region, or many places in the world, doesn't have, and I think that's really interesting. By the way, the Tin Man lives on Route 1. I didn't know this, and I watched him for a while, and he has rather indecent interest in pickup trucks because he just stood there and looked. So I did not get out of the car. I was always freaked out by the Tin Man. Who wasn't? 17 people are really nice. They're dedicated, they're proud to be a Mainer, even though some do say A when you get up there. But they are, you know, hilarious characters. Everyone was so nice, and you know, you say this about a lot of destinations, and it's true. Ultimately, the stories that you come back, you know, half of them at least will be about the people you meet. Top left, Don Sierra, he's the man with the church up there in Aroostook County. He's carving with a little spoon to get paint layers, and he's restoring that into a cultural museum. These are some hilarious people here in the top right in the French Cultural Institute. It's the only French library in Maine. And these guys, this couple are hilarious. And they left this and went outside into a gold Mustang sports car with black racing stripes, and I was just like, those guys are great. This man, Dan Brown, is a 90-year-old lumberjack, and this guy's classic. He's converted his whole basement into basically a museum, and Millinocket, where he lives since he was 1 month old, is making a new city museum, and I saw it, and they're going to have him do a part about all these lumberjack things. And you know, he's 90, he's going around with a cane, but you know, he's like picking up these heavy things. I don't know if I should help him or not because he's been doing it, but he showed me this, which you hang buckets to feed people and things like that. It's actually really light. This is Kevin McCartney, who is a professor at Presque Isle at the university. He made the solar system. He also has something I'd love to come back for. It's hilarious in February. It's called Planet Head Day. You should sign up for this. Some of you, I think, are already prepared for it, but they shave your head and paint a planet on your head. And up in the county, that's something people do, I guess. And, he does it, but it's to raise money for cancer, and every year it's getting more and more people that are willing to do that crazy stuff. 18, the woods is well named. I saw things like this, piles of sticks, you know, things like that, and took a photograph. But what stuck with me the most is, like coming down Route 11, looking over where Baxter is and seeing Mount Katahdin, and you just see a complete sea of trees. Mr. Russell there from Northern Outdoors had a similar experience when he first came here and up Sugarloaf, and he looked up and just saw just nothing. It's just, why isn't there anything out there? It's very unique. So there's all these woods. I think, I love this brochure that's just trying to explain what the lumber and the timber industry is about, so people aren't turned off by these sites. And I think that the lumberjack thing is really interesting to people outside it. They might have a slightly ironic interest about it when they come in, but when you really meet like Dan Brown and Chuck Harris and real people and hear it, it's a part of Maine heritage. So I think there's nothing that can't be used in a way, I think, that add people's appreciation of the Maine woods. Almost finished. It's a long list, I know. I have no idea how long this speech is. Should I stop? Should I stop?
Go for 100.
19. I like travel, but a vacation to me looks a lot like this. This is on the long pond. It's the only hour of relaxation I've probably had in 4 days, and I sat and read Thoreau's Maine woods there. I tweeted the exact same thing, and that photo, and I got a response from a guy named Andrew Potter, who called me bastard. This is good for Maine woods. You want that, you want people angry when you're not here. Andrew Potter is a writer in Toronto. He's written a book called Authenticity Hoax, and it's about trying to understand what's real and what isn't. And it's kind of interesting that he just absolutely got it from that image that, he wanted to be there. So I thought that was nice. Sorry for the foul language. Can we edit that out of the video? I don't think there's any more profanity. Number 20, it seems like the Maine's creed that I heard everywhere that I went is that you can't get there from here. I don't know if they're REM fans or not, but you hear this. You can't get there from here, you can't get there from here. And to be honest, I disagree. And I actually think that it is that you can get there from here. That is what Maine woods is about. Maine understands it probably better than anyone else that half the fun is getting there. You have thousands of miles of snowmobile trails. The Appalachian Trail begins here. You have these new bike trails I heard about from east of Baxter going to the Golden Road that may be happening at some time. The hut-to-hut trips that you can do by bike or cross-country skiing, going lake to lake on canoe trips. Like, to me, it just seems like a crazy adventure. Just float planes flying into places and getting a camp up there somewhere. This is like Alaska to people. This is like, really? That can happen? You can get there from here. You really can. I think that is probably the main thing that I take away from all of this, that it is about, the cliche is that it's the journey, not the destination. And in Maine, Maine woods, it's really true. So that's the top 20 list. Sorry that I disagreed with the creed. But it's okay. It's all for fun. So I wanted to explain a little bit why I'm here. This is the top 10 list that we wrote at Lonely Planet, probably last December. Top 10 U.S. travel destinations. Earlier we said that I had an announcement. This was a mistake. So we're actually taking Maine off the list. Just joking. It's easy to do that. Lonely Planet is a travel guidebook company, and they basically make guidebooks, and they have apps now. They have articles online and videos. Of huge active in social media. There's 1 million Twitter followers, 1 million Facebook followers. So they cover everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Travel is everywhere. And so I've worked on the Burma guide, the Trans-Siberia guide. I've worked on Colombia and Central America. And when I did New York City, I picked Queens and Brooklyn and the Bronx. I'm often interested in underdog destinations. It's just me personally. I like the kind of what's next. What's next to that big thing that's just as rewarding. My first trip, I was offered a slice of the Caribbean or Nebraska, and I took Nebraska. And it honestly is probably one of the best trips I've ever been on. I covered the Dakotas and Nebraska and the Great Plains. I had a fantastic time. Lonely Planet's a little bit like that. It covers the main destinations. It has guidebooks to Italy and France and Paris and New York City. But it tries to go a little bit past it. It tries to show you how to connect with locals and have this elusive, authentic experience. It explains to people how they can be somewhat independent. Most of the people that are using Lonely Planet are going to plan all or most of their trip. They might stop off and take a white rafting trip. They might join a canoe for a few days trip with a guide, but they might go and stay at this kind of lodge or even go down to the ocean on their own. They're interested in touring a region more so than just taking the cruise. We don't get a lot of people from cruises buying the books, people going on Vegas trips or Disney. Nothing against those places. They're not the ones that buy the Lonely Planet product. So it is about exploring. It's about trying to see what's next before other people. And people do turn to Lonely Planet for that. When we created this list, one of the things I've learned is that when you make a list, when you make content, it isn't really the end goal. It's that is news. You know, this is the modern press release. You know, this a writer writing this top 10 U.S. destinations. We got on CNN and Fox with this. Got on some Maine radio stations, some other local stations that were part of the top 10 list. We got that. That sounds cynical. That's just an added bonus. We made this list by talking to the people that go everywhere, and we talked to them. You know, Louisville, Kentucky's Rising. This is a white Knights. Was it Aurora Borealis? What's that called? Yeah, thank you. Northern Lights. Big year for that. So Fairbanks was high on the list. We looked at places that were either overlooked or they had some news angle for it. We talked to the authors that go to those places. We've talked to the editors that oversee those destinations in-house, and they plan the books, and they find the authors, and they brief them when they go, and we voted on this. And so we really didn't want to make it a cynical kind of like PR thing and just throw stuff together, whatever, be provocative. We really wanted it to reflect not where we think the highest numbers will be, but where we think people ought to think about going, and particularly when it's linked to 2014 and stuff. I think I said some of what I've done with Lonely Planet. I've been with Lonely Planet for 15 years. I went as a fan. I lived in Vietnam in the mid-90s, and I wanted to work on the Vietnam guidebook. And I worked as an editor and a publishing manager. I worked as an author of a couple dozen books. And then the last 4 years as spokesperson for Lonely Planet, which is a weird, kind of hard to describe job where you talk about travel and you get to do stuff. And I got that job because, and I just want to explain how ultimately it's got to be fun, right? You know, people travel for fun. And the reason why I got picked for this job is this top picture, a guy with a mustache. I was working on the Trans-Siberian and they wanted me to blog about it on the website. And I said, okay, but only if I can count mustaches. And so at every stop I did random counts of mustaches. And then I did graphs, I did trends by 7 time zones across Russia. I did latitude, longitude, I did, and I just tried to graph statistics as part of the blog thing, the art that put it together. It was interesting enough, I guess, for people to follow the trip, to find out where is the mustache zone of Russia. And the New York Times talked about it, and I spoke about it in New York once, and the head of the US office was there, and I remembered that, and how I tied it into Lonely Planet products, so I got that job for doing crazy little things. So sometimes there's fun to be had. Just the other things, I mean, I got to be the first American to go to Mountie boot camp in Saskatchewan, and we made a video on this. I got a regulation haircut that took many months to recover from. It was very, very hard work, but the thing is a lot of people associate Canada with the Mountie. They have a cartoon image of what it is. Similarly, we have a very cartoon image, a lot of outsiders, of what lumberjacks are. There might be an opportunity there, with something. So there's other crazy things. I did Monopoly tourism. I used the Monopoly board in Atlantic City. But, Marvin Gardens, all those places are based on real places in Atlantic City. And just went to all those places. It's not something Atlantic City promoted. This video got picked up by like a lot of New York dailies. I got on Fox News and all kinds of stuff. So it's just kind of, when we try to figure out how to get like in the news, sometimes you can be silly, I guess. I want to talk just a little bit about other writing. Guidebooks are basically covering everything of a place. If you have a guidebook to Maine, you're covering the coast. You break it down in region like the Maine tourism site does as well. And you talk about places to eat, you talk about museums. No one pays for that. It's not like someone pays the guidebook to put you in. They're not sponsored. You're going in objectively and writing about it. But it gives someone a platform to plan their own trip. When you see articles in magazines or New York Times, which is a fantastic travel section, they do a little bit differently. And most of them don't tend to like to work with any kind of local partners. They'll come in sometimes anonymously. And so how you get them to do things is a little tricky. You have to, maybe kind of know who's there and let them know of news and things like that. I just wanted to show what the New York Times have done in the last 20 years. About once every 10 weeks they talk about Maine. It's pretty good. They have 8 of 20, which is a little bit higher than the percentage of people that go to Maine Woods, of the articles were about Maine Woods. That shows the New York Times is trying to look beyond a little bit what most people expect. And I like that. I like that about certain travel writers that try to find the next thing first. It's kind of a race. 6 of those 8 articles were winter travel. 6 of all the 20 were footsteps following a famous person like Thoreau or like a painter or something like that. What did they do, what their experience was. It wasn't talk about moose or festivals, the fly-in camps, even Acadia National Park. And I just wanted to point that out. Acadia National Park's famous. A lot of people go there. But what's new about it? What's different? What's changed? That's what people want. That's what travel writers want. That's what they respond to, change. You know, you have the hut trails. Every time that extends a little bit, that's news. People use that. If that bike trail gets made, that's news. Even if biking isn't as big as fishing, that could be news. That could be news. This windmill thing, that ride the wind, that's great. You know, that's news. That's interesting. That's a different way to travel. People respond to that kind of stuff, and that's what you kind of need to get to them, and then let them make their own decisions so they think they found it on themselves. I don't know. I love this quote. It's hard to explain why Maine is not more crowded. That was about skiing. It was in a skiing article. I just wanted to say that. And the notion of remote, they pointed out that there's all these New York, New Jersey plates in Stowe, 5.5 hour drive, 1 hour extra. It was just in Bethel area, there was no one there, in particularly New York, New Jersey. It's not as far as people think. And I like how they illustrated that. Extra hour, a lot more space to yourself. And the local said that the distance keeps the yahoos and pretenders away. I thought that was funny. I want to talk about the whole digital world and writers. There's more travel writers now than ever before. Caroline talked about that a little bit. A lot of noise out there, a lot of blogs and things like that. Things are moving online, there's no doubt. Lonely Planet was recently purchased by a digital media company in Tennessee. They used to be owned by BBC. Now they're owned by Total Digital Media. Frommer's, one of the bigger American guidebook companies, was purchased by Google this year. Things are moving online. So even like all this travel planning, what is going to happen? No one really knows for sure. But, you know, like Lonely Planet's already done, you know, its apps and things, but it's going to go more and more that way. When you look at the blogs, I've seen a lot of CVBs and in regions and stuff kind of have a dismissive attitude towards bloggers. Some bloggers are really bad, but some bloggers can really get the niche you want. If you're wanting to go after, you know, ride the wind, there might be a way to go specifically out after a crowd that will respond to that, or a new bike trail, or whatever it may be. Someone who normally writes about France might be interested in that Acadia Congress in 2014 in particular. You might be able to target the niche and get more out of it, even though their readership isn't as big as a New York Times or a USA Today travel section or something like that. So I would not overlook the bloggers, and bloggers are very easy to lure here. Just send them here and they'll come. You know, you have unfortunately, a lot of bloggers are in it specifically because they can try to get free trips and things like that, or partly free trips and things. And that's kind of unfortunate to a degree because some of them aren't really writers, they're just wanting to travel, but not all of them. And I wouldn't overlook it. There's a conference in Toronto in a few weeks called TBEX, Travel Blog Exchange, TBEX. It's twice a year. It's usually once in Europe and once in the States. It's been around for 4 years. You have about 450 bloggers there. It's the biggest blogger mecca for travel. And they got sponsors draping themselves over them, and then the reverse way. You could even just have someone that's in there and just see what you meet, and there's a lot of drinks, so you could don't forget about them. A lot of, Quebec tourism has a lot of money, and I get stuff from them all the time, but they have PR presence in New York. A lot of these regions will hire PR people in New York, and that means a lot of the writers are in New York, and they're just kind of courting them. There's little events and things like that, and that really builds, even if it's just as simple as a conversation about what's going on, it's in their mind. They don't know what they don't know, and so if there's any way that Northwoods has some kind of person that can help get into that drinking and boozing scene, either at a conference like TBEX or in New York at some of these travel events, that would work. Okay. Oh, I did a little Twitter test, and I looked at how many people are followed by Twitter, and Maine does good. Number 2. Look at all the region. Number 2. Of Twitter followers. Massachusetts has a lot more. I wanted to, I looked at some other regions like Finger Lakes in New York has 2,800. Hudson River Valley has 220. This isn't. Who knows how much this is going to do for you? It's kind of unclear about state tourism boards and things and how much they get from this, but maybe Facebook's more valuable, but I just looked at Twitter. I wanted to point out Banff Squirrel, because I really like what they did. Banff is a region in Alberta, Banff, Lake Louise, Jasper, and the tourism representatives there had the fortune of something happening. A few years ago, there was a photograph taken. The couple was set up a camera, and they put it on themselves. They're ready to smile in front of this mountain or glacier or lake, I don't know what it was now. And right at the last second, a squirrel popped up between them and looked straight at the camera. And this really happened, and it became this viral photo everyone was talking about. So these guys immediately adopted Banff squirrel. It's not Visit Banff, it's not Banff Visited, whatever, tourism, Banff squirrel. And the person that tweets for them is very personal. He knows a lot about, he's anonymous, I know who it is, but he's anonymous. He actually lives in New York City, but he's from the area. And he will respond to some squirrel questions every now and then. But mostly I said, hey, what's the deal with fall foliage there? Where's the best place to go in Alberta? Because I was writing an article about fall foliage and wanted to get unlikely places, hint. And he responded with some kind of hike there that I wouldn't have got otherwise. Very personal, they reacted, and that guy's great. And I think it's a really good idea to have, if like the Northwoods ever had some kind of spokesperson or representative, something, I wonder, well, you get that hermit guy. Hermits are good, lumberjacks are good. I was wondering about angry otter, because moose dominate. They take everything. You got moose shops and moose lodges and moose beer and moose lakes. Otters must be like pissed. It's like, what are we doing? So maybe an angry otter. I don't know. Just the basic thing about how you get in, it's a big conversation. You just got to create news. Create news, it's from statistics, it's from something that's opened. It's not a restaurant, it's not necessarily that a raft tour is starting next week. It's something a little more significant than that. But if it's news, people will respond. And you know it. It doesn't have to be a fancy press release. It could be little tweets, it could be a relationship you have letting them know about something. I have some ideas about that in a second. Get writers here, do whatever you can to get them here. And the good news about all this is that I really think, and I'm sorry about the hand drawings, but that's not a good name. Down east, I got a little carried away here. It's like I don't know, it's like chewing tobacco there and something. But people love it. I really believe this, and I don't have science to prove it, but you say Maine to someone, and there's an idea. Yeah. If you're in Jefferson, Missouri, yeah, I've always wanted to go to Maine. Like you're talking about the bucket list. People don't have that from New Hampshire. They just don't. Not as many people have it for Vermont. No one has it from New Brunswick. Not even people in New Brunswick. And it's a good place, I'm not trying to put it down. But Maine immediately has a reaction. So I just thought I'd look at a couple things about how people, what they react to when they think of Maine. And the first thing is, and I hope I don't get in trouble, but I looked at the state tourism planning guide, and I just looked at the ads. And I looked at what symbols were used for the ads, just as an unscientific example. The big three, lighthouse, lobster, and moose. Here they are. Lighthouses won 24-12 over moose. Lighthouses and lobsters, and by the way, I swore off lighthouse and lobsters in Charge Trip. No lobster. I haven't seen lighthouse, but what's that weird white building in the middle of Bangor? That mound thing? Is that a lighthouse? Okay, good. So I did see that. So the pages by region was 64% was devoted towards coastal areas. And 76% of the icons, this is ads, this is just people just kind of thinking about the images they want to use. A little bit more, skewed to the coast. Didn't include whales or puffins, we got a little higher. I don't know if that's interesting, I just wanted to draw on this. I did tweet Maine. I said, Maine, reaction, what is it? And here's some of the responses. I have like 25,000 followers on Twitter for some reason. And I guarantee that if I'd done something like, Moncton, react! You would not have got, you would got sarcastic comments and Maine, you get responses. I mean, there's a lot of lobster, 5 lobster, 2 moose. I like popovers. What are these popovers? Do you know what that is? What's that? You can eat these things? That's good. I like that. I was impressed. Butter and honey. See, popovers. Thoreau talks about some sweetbread in the book, and I was wondering if that was popovers. No, it's not? Okay. Popovers. Little delicacy thing. People like that stuff. Big. You don't have to change. You're big? Well, maybe too big for me. As long as I can put some fiddleheads on it. Stephen King gets in there. I have an idea about Stephen King in a bit. Remembering Thee was pretty clever. I like the guy who says eating blueberries while standing in very cold water. This person clearly had come. There's a sense there. Positive Andrew Wyeth, negative the freaking damn black fly. So there wasn't profanity. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting what they would say. The challenge, I think, for Maine Woods, if I may say so, is a lot of people see the coast, they know what it is, lobster and lighthouse, and the rest of it's just other. They don't know what it is. if I may say so, particularly when you're getting out of the region. I really don't think it blends. There's like moose and trees up there, right? I don't think they know what it is necessarily, so that's kind of an opportunity. When I think of Maine, I think that they know Lobster, Lighthouse, Moose, Hello, Bean, Tom's, Poland Spring, maybe Acadia National Park. I don't think they know this. I don't, I may be wrong. Where the moose are. The moose are there. They own the moose. Maine Woods owns the moose. I don't know if that's immediately clear to people. Moose is such a big icon. I know you see it a lot, but I don't know if it's apparent outside the region. That's where it is. But you can have your own island, that whole island count. It's great. Fall foliage, wow, what an opportunity there. We've got 4 times the forest that New Hampshire does, which is the second most forested state. Maine is the first. These fly-in camps and cabins I was talking about, that's like a dreamy thing, like being your own little millionaire and have an island for, rent out some cottage somewhere like that. That's great. Thoreau's last words, I mean, I gotta be honest. Thoreau wrote Maine Woods. I imagine most of you know about that. There isn't a Wikipedia page to that book. It's not well known. It's not that well known. Everyone knows Thoreau. And by the way, the book turns 150 next year. Think about that. Remember the Lewis and Clark anniversary and stuff. What can you do with Thoreau? His last words? Moose. Indian. Right? He was thinking about Maine. Use that. And by the way, if you have any books stocking your businesses, put Maine Woods in there. People will sit and read. They'll stay another day by the lake and read. Let them read about the history of that. Thoreau is a celebrity, I guess, and they don't know it connects with your region. So I think that's great. I'm going into my ideas, folks. Hut to hut by snowmobile, skiing, hiking, and biking. This is a theme that you see in a lot of destinations. It's like a cruise mentality, the taking on land, that you don't have to worry about going A to B and moving luggage and checking in necessarily. And you can do it with these alternative transport. People go to France and do this. Ontario has biking along the Niagara River. You see this, people respond to that. It's news, and when anything changes, I think that people not enough people probably are associating Maine Woods with it. I don't see enough coverage. This French in the USA, people, I said it before, people don't know that much about it. And it's interesting. It's very cultural. A lot of Lonely Planet travelers, independent travelers, are very interested in cultural differences. Having those popovers, having these fiddleheads. I seriously had no idea what that was. I still don't. I don't think it's real. I mean, the guy was a little dodgy, so I'm gonna watch him. He wasn't. He was very charming. The Pork and Beans War, the Aroostook War, nickname is Pork and Beans War. This war is fantastic. This is a gift. Okay, I'm extreme. 1839, armed lumberjacks from Canada and the U.S. British Canada get upset at each other about where the border is. One person died because he was sleeping and he was run over by his own supply cart. There was a fist fight in Holton. This is great. This is gold. It's like a lumberjack war, and there was like a fist fight, 2 broken noses, and they called it the Pork and Beans War. I think get immigration to allow this to happen up in the valley. There's an island in the river. You go over, you canoe over to the island. There's huge vats of pork and beans. Anyone brings any other food route, you gotta have only pork and beans. And Canadians are invited to wear red, Americans blue, and you hug. Pork and bean hug. I don't know. People don't know about the war. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think it's just that you can do the Appalachian Trail by day. People think that you got to go from Georgia to Maine. You can go out and do part of that. It's like a bucket list item. They'll feel like empowered that they got to go and hike for 4 hours on the Appalachian Trail. I don't know that people realize that. Sometimes it's hard to know where the trails are and how you get them. Meet a lumberjack and lumberjack roads. I mean, we talked about it before. People respond to that. It's that Mountie thing. It's like, you got Paul Bunyan here. He's kind of blocked off by construction. I wanted to touch his booth. You can't get up there. And people have been telling me a little bit about guides, Maine guides and wardens. We don't know that. We don't know. I never heard of it before. And I think that there's a real pride in the region about being a Maine guide or a warden. And maybe there's a way of working that a little bit so that people know. Because I really don't think that most people, particularly first timers, would know about that. Oh my gosh, this is a horrible slide. I'm going to do it though. I wanted to throw out ideas. Literally, this trip finished yesterday. You're processing and you're trying to think of anything that you can think of. You can discard it. Maybe you've thought about this and there's reasons why it can't. That's fine. One of the things I thought was different about the Maine Woods than some places I go to is that accessing it is a little bit more complicated. You're driving, you see this beautiful lake. there's not a sign that says what it is often. There's not a sign that says the rivers. That helps you feel connected to the ground a little bit. There aren't signs along, even, not too many signs along the road that gives you historical detail. Like that one town is where slate that may have made JFK's tombstone. It's a famous slate town. You could have a little plaque there. People stop. Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, I need coffee. Whatever. I think that it really gets people connected more. But the other thing is, I think if you had a little more money that you could do, is identify 6 or 10 spots on a handful of key entry roads into the woods. Imagining people that are getting off the interstate or getting a few days up from a coast trip, and build kind of half-mile to 1-mile little hikes for a view that they can't get. People will do that, and you see that in a lot of different states, these little quick, easy hikes and stuff, because there's a lot of things that are just right over there, but you don't know how to access it unless you know. I think that would be really useful. It might help tie together all the scenic byways that you already have in place. Really give the sense that Maine is a touring destination. You can do the driving. And I just think a little bit more for that, just accessing in just a bit would help. I covered signs. New road, yeah, why not? Why not just make a road? You know, I'm sure it's easy. You know, just go across the north of Baxter, problem solved. I'm sure that's a little tough, but that would be great. The Throws book I talked about, Newfoundland. I want to tell you about this. Newfoundland is a real gift to travel. It's hilarious. There's a guy there that's making a map, and it's not a map of places or cities or roads or parks, it's a map of characters, of people. I thought that was really interesting. It's not out yet. I think it's going to be out next month. Look for that, Newfoundland. What would that look like for the woods? Could it be done? You know, what would it be? A map of people? You know, I don't know if you're allowed to knock on a 9-year-old's lumberjack and ask to tour, but you know, I just thought that was a really interesting way of mapping out that place. I heard a lot about the struggling economy in towns when I was going around the Maine woods, and a lot of times travelers and a lot of Lonely Planet travelers really like it when what they're doing can benefit places. Is there a way to work on that a little bit? That their tourism, where they go and how they go, is helping the most people. There might be a way to spin it, connect. Gets back to news. Look at stats and the effect tourism have. If people feel like they're doing something to rescue a place, or help, not rescue, but help X%, a lot of people will respond to that. They'll make them, you know, we saw that after Katrina. A lot of people went down to New Orleans and gave like a day or two from Bourbon Street and worked like for Habitat for Humanity and rebuilding houses. And they told me that there was no way they could have built the houses that they did without tourists just giving a day or two. Maybe there's something. I don't know what that is. You own Moose, don't forget. You own it. That's all yours. I put woods first, sub-region second. I kind of don't know what I mean, but it's going back to that other. You know, it's like, you know, you want people just in that bulk, and then you can break it down. I look at it as like 5 fingers in the 5 regions, and you want to start with a fist and then spread it out to specialize where they want to go. You know, it's a bad salute, but you know, Maine woods. You know, and I think that I went to the info center on the I-95 yesterday, and all the brochures are ordered by region. It would be great to see even just a basic map like you see on the website that shows where they are, because I think people don't know what Kennebec Valley is until they know it. Orientation, that's a big thing for travel writers. You have to, like the second graph, give people a sense of where it is or how they access it. Get a fast pass for those Canadians, you know, so they don't have to go through customs. Can you imagine that? You know, it's interesting because they drew the line that separated cultures up there. It's a little bit like Berlin, what happened in Berlin in a way. And maybe not as extreme as that, but you know, maybe there's a way to make it easier. It would only be good for the States, I'm sure, or for Maine, you know, because they have higher taxes. Okay, oh yeah, 1-pager for woods trips. You know, I asked about the volunteer at the info center, very nice, helpful, I said, I was the dream person. I went in and said, I'm here on business in Bangor. I want to give a couple days and go up there in the woods somewhere, take a little drive, maybe get on a boat and sit someplace nice. Where should I start? And I was suggested to go onto the Golden Road, which I think may be a little early to do, actually, in a couple places near Bangor. I'm not trying to criticize her or anything. I just think it's an opportunity. Maybe you all have some kind of agreement of, you know, 10 things that you would like them to say. Maybe if we give it to them, that they would understand how to feel that, or if someone's saying they want moose, how they can get it a little further in, you know, trick them, in other words. I'm just joking, but, you know, how would you brief them? I don't know how that works, but maybe there's a way to do that. create 1, 2, 4-day road trip guides. Free MP3s, audio guides. Arustic has a brilliant audio CD called Voici the Valley. I recommend everyone listen to it. It's really, really good. It takes a little bit of a drive to get up there, or coming back down on 11 to get back to the rest of it. And this is like an 80-minute audio. I was wincing listening to it because I was really worried it was going to be boring. And it is very good, talking about food, about the history, talking about all the different music that's just under the surface there. God, if they could just get that a little bit more clear, where you can see this medieval kind of French music that's surviving in certain pockets of there in New Brunswick, I think people would go to it. It's a really good CD. I'd love it if these were just free MP3s that people could get, or there's an AM station that loop them, and people would feel more connected as they make that drive up there. I don't know. Keep true to Maine. You know, if you don't try to appeal to New Yorkers by replicating New York cuisine or something like that, just go with the popovers and fiddleheads and loose lips if you have them. Boys, and if someone comes from a place that knows how to cook really well or something, by all means, but that's true. You know, that's what they do. But I think that I see a lot of destinations try to upgrade their food and hope that people will come, but people aren't going to go to Manitoba for Mozart, which I've seen that happen, or to get this kind of fancy new 5-star food necessarily. They'll be happy if it's there. They're not going to go there, for that. I don't think. Pushfall. I was trying to calculate the leaf visitor ratio for Maine, like how many leafs there are versus visitors, because that ratio would be really interesting and would dominate everyone, and you could use that. That's kind of news, kind of stuff. People would like that. They might tweet it around and things, but I couldn't figure it out. Push the islands. 6,000 bodies of water is X number of islands. It's more than, I think that's good. The fly-in dreams, Alaska, the East idea. I mean, I found that you can fly from Bangor into the Long Pond. You fly into Bangor and do a little float plane. That's an experience for a lot of people who've never been near one of those things. You land right there. It's about $80. It's like, God, that's a deal. That's a good deal, if that's true. That's what I've heard. A couple more. Canada does a really good thing of engaging writers called Go Media. It happens a couple times a year, once in Canada and once in the States. All these representatives from province and city tourism, as well as outfitters and tour operators, go up and they have speed dating, kind of like this. And you go around, and there's like 100 writers or so, and they do 15 minutes with people that they've set up interviews with. Everyone comes away going, wow, I really got a lot from that. U.S. doesn't really have something like that as a nation. Maybe New England could. Maybe they could have some kind of speed dating thing connected. And as soon as you do this to create news, I suggest seceding from New England. Maine officially secedes from New England. Don't call us New England. Tom Brady's not welcome. No, he can come. He can come. Don't be antagonistic. It isn't New England, though, is it? It really isn't. But anyway, Stephen King. Anyone has his email address, let me know. If we get him to say 6 things that he really likes about non-coastal Maine, you put that out there, that's going to live forever. Get that celebrity voice, and you can write. He just gives what they are, and you write something. God, he's right here. Let's go over. Let's all go to his house right now. Shake that man. I guess the goal here is to try to brand this whole region. 43 minutes, and it's not bad, I guess. Brand Maine Woods in a word or a few. Like what do you put to say what this is? And this image I would recommend not going for. You want the flip side to this image, which I saw on the trip in the Maine Woods. I won't say where. So I have the answer. No, I don't. This is my cloud map. French pinky up there, woods, real. I heard that a lot. People, I ask them, what makes it special? It's real, it's real, it's real. Edge of America, where the moose goes, raw, wild, Alaska, the East Frontier. Big thumb, looks like a big thumb, thumbs up. It's clean. Outback of the East, wilderness. It's the heart of Maine. I do think it is. Maine's made a lot of parts with the hearts up there. Island nation. It's not other. But I guess in general, I just say, you can get there from here, And I feel like in a way, as you all try to come together and figure out how to promote the region, it's like hitting that play like the champion thing, which a lot of people think Notre Dame started. They didn't. Oklahoma started that. That's Oklahoma doing it. Notre Dame stole it, and they just beat Oklahoma every time they play. I'm from Oklahoma. Anyway, it's like you almost hit that. Can get there from here. Can get there from here. That's probably what this all is about, is how you are able to connect the region and let people know that there's accessible adventure, crazy things out there in Maine. And frankly, that's why I'm ready to come back for real next time, more than 4 days, and bring my family and come and stay and do some of these things that I've been hearing about. I think that's it. 45 minutes.